Being 9 o'clock, I call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, agenda approval. I have a couple of changes. Item number 5 is deleted. And
Item 5 on consent or discussion?
And Rick Frank, Environmental Services, will be on discussion items following item 6.
All right, move to approve the agenda. Deleting item number 5, but not including number 7.
What's number 7?
Well, it'd be the new number 7, or I guess technically the new number 6 if you delete number 5, is having Rick present today, and I'd rather have him present tomorrow since he wasn't. Tomorrow? Or, I mean, sorry, next Tuesday.
I think Andy set it up for him this morning. I saw him in here.
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
Yep, and that's wonderful, and I'm glad he is coming in. However, I'd like to have had some time to prepare, have some questions ready. It wasn't on the agenda, it wasn't on our deal. Current county policy is that the requests have to be in by Thursday of the previous week. So I guess, for something like this, I would like to see that give us a
I
week
just
and
think that
present
we were
tomorrow.
kind of waiting for it, so I kind of hate to put it off.
Yeah,
Oh, I understand that, but
I mean, I
again,
haven't
that's why
seen
the
it till-
policy was put into place, so things don't get slid past without the commissioners being prepared for it. If we're not gonna follow our own policies, what's the?
But, maybe you'll have more questions, after he presents.
We could bring him
Sure,
back again
something,
next
but
week.
he
We
can
could
come
bring him back again
next
next
week,
week.
just as easy as you can do
Justin,
it
we
this
could bring him
week,
back
so.
next week.
We can
Just do
have
it next
come
week
back
and have
for
it
more
prepared.
questions even.
Yep.
I think he's gonna be gone next. I thought.
What?
I thought he was gonna be gone next.
What? Let's check with him. If you could.
I mean, I guess to see it get started
I'd like to-
anyway,
I'd
I'd
like to
kind
hear
of
what he
like
has to
to, yeah,
And then I would like to hear what he say with a chance to bring him back.
right.
Yes.
For a rebuttal.
Yeah,
I agree. Or a discussion.
call for a,
Just way behind what we asked him to do.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So you. Okay, thank you. Bye. He's got a conflict next week.
He's gone next week.
Conflict? Okay.
So do we wanna just throw that policy out then, that we have to have things in by Thursday, or, cause it really doesn't matter, we're not following it, so is it kind of a moot point then, or what do we do?
I think you
it's
brought it
always at
last
the
week
discretion of the board though
Yeah, but
when
it's
we
always been the
talked about
Thursday
it.
prior unless there's an emergency or something that can't wait. And as I
Mhm.
say, this has waited 6 weeks. I don't understand why it couldn't wait another week or something. So I would just like to be a little bit more prepared. I hate getting caught off
Mhm.
guard. Obviously, it wasn't on the agenda. It wasn't in our packet. We had no further knowledge of this, and that's my point. So the motion was made that we would have discussion item number 5 deleted, and the motion's still there, looking for a second to follow Robert's Rules of Order if we do.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? The motion fails for lack of a second. I'm assuming the agenda is approved, deleting item number 5.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Adding Rick Frank, Environmental Services. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Further discussion? All of those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and opposed nay.
Nay.
4 ayes, 1 nay. Motion passes. Minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Minutes look good.
All of those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and opposed nay. Motion carries. Okay, public comment period. No personal attacks, if you please. Any complaints regarding an employee or department shall be directed to Human Resources Office. Would anyone wish to address the board?
Rich Reedy from Money Creek. This is on the agenda, but I just want to make sure everybody's got a copy. Over a month ago, the Money Creek Town Board approved this resolution, and it somehow got bollocksed up. So at the last Money Creek Town Meeting, which was Thursday, I was asked if I would make sure it got here, and I know Char's got copies, and I realize it's here, but I'm going to give everybody hard copies anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks.
Got one. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anyone else wish to address the board?
Jack Miller, La Crescent. This may be too late, maybe water over the dam, but this county maintenance building, I can't for the life of me understand why you would put it out by the high school. With all of the noise and the trucks, one of the things when they talked about frac sand mining was, oh, they'd run a lot of trucks by the high school. So what do we do as a county? We move it over, the big trucks we've got over by the high school. And it takes prime land in a prime location off the tax roll. And I read where Mr. Gavin came in and spoke about the need for the shop and the size. Steve, you said you were going to meet with Mr. Gavin. Did you
I
do that?
have, yes, a couple of times.
And you came away thinking he didn't know what he was talking about, or?
No, he's, I felt a little,
We're not supposed to engage right now.
yeah. Can I talk to you, discuss it with you later?
Yeah, but I'll make the point that he runs, I suppose, about 200 trucks. I don't know, but I see him all over the place. And he can get by with a shop smaller than what we're proposing for, what, 12 trucks, is it? It doesn't make any sense. The current building site, or where the building is, would be more than sufficient. Would put another addition onto it, and it's been purposely not maintained. I bet I can go down there right now and there's the same hole in the ceiling that was there when I was a commissioner my first year. Because it's like, oh, well, if we just don't fix anything, we'll get a new building. That's ludicrous. The reason that Gavin doesn't have all of his trucks inside is because he has to make money. He can't go to the taxpayer and say, oh, I don't need some inside parking. Why don't you give me some tax money? This is a taxpayer that's paying for this, on top of a jail, and
You can finish, Jack.
on top of a jail that has already been, is going to be an albatross for how many years? Underutilized space. And we're going to do this again? I'll stop, but I might also mention this 2 minutes is a little ridiculous. This is the taxpayer's building. This is a taxpayer's right. I mean, you may, if you can't control a meeting with a gavel, then maybe pass a gavel. But to limit people to 2 minutes when they're paying your salary and everything else in the county, and you don't want any more than 2 minutes, once you get your name out, you got 1 minute and 45 left. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ken Jumper from La Crescent Township. I guess I want to continue on the same theme that Jack Miller has laid out here. I think many people were just absolutely floored that last week you passed a resolution to build a new highway shop out by the school on that prime land. And equally floored by the comment from you, Commissioner Storley, about repurposing the land where the existing shop is right now for residential use. It took me about 5 minutes on the MPCA website to identify that there are 3 petroleum tanks removed from that site out there over the last few years, for which the county paid a fine of, these are leaky petroleum tanks, for which the county paid a fine of about $3,750. I wasn't able to find any information, or not already, as to whether remediation of the soil occurred there, so I suspect you have a petroleum waste site there that needs to be cleaned up. I would urge you, before you make or even think of continuing to build a shop out by the high school, and thinking you're going to get rid of that property for residential use, to get a full report on what remediation costs will be for that site. I know we had a few of those considerations in La Crescent Township when I was on the town board, and those costs can run from $200,000 to $1 million. If you start looking at cost, for a few hundred, for a couple thousand, for $50,000, you could buy some land on the west side of that highway shop to have enough room if you really need room there. Sell the land out by the school for $50,000, $100,000 and be tens of thousands of dollars ahead because you wouldn't have to remediate that current site there. So please do due diligence and get a report from somebody as to what the cleanup costs would be on the old highway site before you take one more step in this ill-fated, ill-conceived project. Thank you.
Brad Clark. This has become something of a comedy trying to address this board about statutes and ordinances because obviously you just don't care. State statute says any mine that is currently or has in the past been inactive for 12 consecutive months must either be terminated or go through the CUP process. These mines don't necessarily need to be closed. They do need to go through and get a valid CUP. This is not up to your discretion. This is state law. And while you continue to ignore it, you break the law. This is not up to the county engineer or the planning and zoning administrator or the environmental services director or the planning commission chair. Of course, they will lobby in direct opposition to the written law. They have a conflict of interest and are trying to cover up for past misconduct. If you respect the mine owners and their businesses, you would bring them into compliance. This uncertainty about the future is going to destroy their business. Not a single mine in the county can know their future is secure. If you respect the citizens in this county, you would apply the rules across the board and bring every mine into compliance or make sure it is reclaimed. If you were to say, follow the law, we would no longer have grievances to bring before you. The cover-up would be over. Remove this source of conflict by being accountable in your job. That's all we ask. The resolution is that simple. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd appreciate it if you would listen to my comments. We had an EDA meeting, and at our last EDA meeting, new EDA member, Matt Schultz, a local banker, brought up a really good question and made a really good comment about the historic jail. It's not a very attractive property for a private concern, either a nonprofit or a business, because there is no parking there. Who wants to start either a driftless museum or a business of any sort if there's no parking? He said, from his perspective as a banker, that the county building where the Veteran Services and Health Department currently are would be a better it would be better to move those folks over to the county jail, renovate it as office space, and use the historic jail, preserve it as a historic building, but use it as office space. Doesn't that make a lot more sense? Then you could sell that commercial property that's right out there on the highway that's much more attractive to a business and has parking. And then you might not have to build this highly expensive and in my mind, all the costs for that highway department have not been identified. The equipment costs are not included in the quotes, as far as I understand. So why not utilize a county building as a county building? Don't charge the taxpayers to build a fancy, in my mind, overly fancy and much too large highway department facility. Commissioner Walter, you said you called past commissioners. You apparently didn't call past chair Jack Miller to get his opinion. And his opinion is pretty clear that we don't need that huge, new, fancy highway department. Thank you, commissioners.
Any other comments? If not, we'll proceed with the meeting. First on the agenda, Brian.
Morning, Commissioners. I had 3 items on the agenda. The first item was to accept the aggregate stockpile and equipment rental quotes. I'm going to recommend postponing that till next week. I haven't had a chance to review those. I got called out to the field yesterday afternoon. So then the next item would be amendment to the airport maintenance and operation agreement. The original agreement with MnDOT Aeronautics was to have the state reimburse the county for 2/3 of the eligible maintenance and operation costs. The state has submitted a revised agreement to us if the board chooses to elect, which would provide 75% reimbursement, so it ups our reimbursement rate. And then the not to exceed cost would go from $16,190 up to $23,910. So essentially it's state money instead of county money paying for the maintenance.
So, Brian, so in essence, we pay more out of pocket, but we get more coverage on the backside. Is that what they're saying? We go from 16 to 23. That's our
no,
cost.
well,
we would never have to pay more than 23. Is that what they're saying?
The state will not pay more than $23,916.
Okay, it's the state that doesn't pay.
910. Yeah.
Sure, I got you.
Yep. So the state ups their total amount. So if we have more maintenance, they will cover more.
I got you. Okay.
So it's a good thing on both ends.
Sure. Okay, I got it now. You need a motion to approve that?
Yes.
I make a motion to basically amend the airport maintenance and operations agreement.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion is carried.
The next item would be the fuel agreement, or actually agreements. There's 2 agreements. One is for the fuel itself, and then one's for the credit card processing. To have that in the agreement as well. The agreement was discussed last week a little bit. It's been discussed in the past. We had MCIT review it along with their own county attorney and myself, just to see what the thoughts are and what the ties are for becoming a branded fuel. Looking at the comments back from MCIT and our county attorney, we all recommend going forward and approving the agreement as presented by AvFuel. Locks us into AvFuel for 5 years, but their costs have been comparable, if not slightly lower than what we've been purchasing fuel from them. Plus, they have a lot of additional training resources and testing equipment that we can utilize that'll benefit the airport and the flyers.
You need a motion for that?
Yes.
Sounds like it's been well checked into. I'll make a motion to approve the AV fuel,
I'll second it.
ad fuel.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
Do they handle the cards for it, the card readers, or is that something different?
No, we handle everything, but some of the stuff they'll provide to us or ODA equipment as we go to replace the fuel system. We get the stuff and then we take over from there.
Okay.
And in discussion at Public Works, it's a very good idea, I think,
Yes.
what they've got going there. It'll just be a better system completely, all total. Any further discussion, questions? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Thank you. That'd be it.
And is Tess in the neighborhood? I thought so too.
I just saw her in the back a minute
Yeah.
ago.
Brian, do you want to see if she's in that back room?
Okay. Consent agenda. Anyone I'd like to review? Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Further discussion? All of those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion is carried.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Have a very brief agenda. I'm just wondering if I'm going to be joined by the surveyor or highway department. Well, first thing on our agenda is for the survey office and the highway department. We have a request similarly to the previous request we have in the summer, and that is for summer student intern help. Normally we refer to these as 67-day employees, but in the case of students that are enrolled in an institution for credit, they can work up to 100 days. There is a set budget, I know, in the surveyor's office, and I believe as well in the highway office for this student intern that they plan to share. This individual's name is Sean Connor, and he is a student at Winona State University. And our proposal and request is that the county hire him at $11.85 an hour, starting on May 14th, to assist with surveying.
Motion to approve the hire for the, what's his first name?
Sean.
Sean Connor.
For the highway and survey department.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay.
I recuse myself from that one.
Okay.
And thank you. I'm sure the departments both thank you as well. And this has been a great program and opportunity for students as well. It's a good, very good for the county. Next we have Human Services. We are proposing the hire of a new social worker for mental health. We held our interviews. We had a good pool of, it wasn't a large pool, but we had a solid pool of applicants, and we were very pleased with those we interviewed. However, one appears to have stood to us anyway, heads and shoulders in the interview process above the others. And so we are proposing to hire Haley Johnson as a 1 FTE social worker, probationary, at hourly rate of $18.71 per hour, effective this Friday, May 15th. And Haley comes to us from as a recent graduate, not just fairly recently, I think a week ago.
Yeah, have they had their ceremony yet?
I think they have.
Yeah.
From Viterbo College, and had done quite intensive internship at Gunderson, I believe at New Horizons as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, and just a really nice background. She's really experienced a lot of things, and worked in a lot of places. So everything it was just like it led up to the nicest internship at Gunderson Lutheran. That was in PEDS and in the NICU and postpartum and all those things. So a lot of exposure to children and families.
And so her background was working with persons with emotional issues, working with counties as far as children that had been neglected and abused, and just they really ran her through the gamut there.
Mm-hmm.
So we are proposing that the county approves her probationary hire conditioned upon successful completion of a background check.
And her name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Haley
You already
Johnson.
said it once, but I forgot.
Johnson.
Haley Johnston. Motion to approve the hire of Haley Johnson as a probationary employee, right?
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And seconded. Further discussion?
Is
All
this
those
for
in-
adult mental health or child?
Children's.
Children.
Children's mental health.
Further discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and opposed nay. That motion carries.
Now, this gives us a full complement to date, anyway, for our social work staffing and case aid staffing. However, we still have the one outstanding position for social service supervisor that we are.
I think that one's gonna get settled pretty darn soon.
I do as well, so we're making headway.
Thank you. I think that's
Thank you, Linda. I just have one thing I want to mention and clarify for the record. A couple of weeks ago, I brought a request forward regarding the approval for a banding change for Mr. Pat Burns in the Highway Department to a B25. And I neglected to say the effective date, have it on record, so in payroll I need to have that on record. And the effective date for that would have been February 13th. So I need that reflected in the record. I'm not sure that you need a motion on that, but you approved the banding, you approved everything else that went with it.
Do we need a motion on that?
I guess it never hurts.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the date for Pat Burns.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion. All of those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and opposed nay. The motion is carried.
By way of very fast update, we did process payroll for the deputy unit. That is all settled now, so you have deputies unit settled for 15, 16, 17, and the back pay has already been made. We've just received for final signature the jailer's unit, and so that we should be able to take care of in short order. And we're waiting to hear back. We should hopefully hear back from some of the other units soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Carol.
Yes, you received your email of the monthly financial report, and we're on month 4 of not really receiving our tax money, but still doing how we typically do. The county revenue fund has basically looking at 50% of our current year tax levy and what we're supposed to keep in reserves, and we're at using like 72% of that for the general fund. DOT actually has had money come in for their projects and for their annual maintenance, so they actually have 110% of what we are supposed to keep in. Human Services has used 88%, and debt service is actually at 142% because we make our payments in February but don't get our tax money until June, so it's in line for where it should be. I don't know if there were any questions on any specific fund or department because we don't have the budget adjustments in for the salary settlements with the unions, or I guess we didn't put any of them in yet. It's going to look a little different probably end of May, end of June when we make those budget amendments. But those are the only things that really come up. We probably will. When we set our levy, we were actually at like a zero budget where revenues equaled expenditures, and when we add the budget adjustments for the labor contracts, we will be showing a budget deficit, and the board will have to decide if there's any cuts they want to make somewhere else, or if that's how we're going to end up having our budget for 2016 or 15. And then we'll begin the 2016 budget process, so yeah. So that's pretty much finance in a nutshell. Yeah. Any questions?
No red flags that you noticed?
No.
It looked pretty good to me.
We will have to do some rearranging in the sheriff's office, or the jail actually, because of the new jail contract. Costs more than what the nursing contract did, but the medical fees are actually costing us less because of the, they get the fees reduced to what we were paying before. So just adjustments between line items, but nothing on bottom line budgets. So,
So what the nurses were getting for being in the jail, was that part of the nurses' budget? Or was it part of the county budget?
The jail would
Or part of
budget for the expenditure, and the public health would include it as revenue, because they had expenditures to offset it, but now it's just all accounted for in the jail.
Okay, so it's all been transferred that way.
All
Okay.
in the jail.
Mhm.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Unfinished business, Highway Department.
I had a meeting with a guy named Tony from Market Johnson, and they do like project management and like all that kind of stuff, like overseeing, you know, like when you get going on the building phase. They do, you know.
Market Johnson, you said?
Yeah, I've got his information.
Mhm.
His card's actually in the car. I forgot to bring it up. But anyway, he was just wondering if he would be able to present to the board, just introduce himself, that they just wanted to be included on if the building project goes forward, to be able to suggest or put in the option to have they can do general contracting, but they can also do project management and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, he just asked if they would be considered for that when the time comes, and I said I'd bring it up and see about getting on the agenda or whatever, just to present to the board or whatever for the possibility for what their services could lend to the county when going forward with the building project.
What's different between project management and
Yeah.
architectural and
I'm not going to do
engineering?
justice for what he described this as, and
Let
Brian's
him
not here,
just-
he would know, but he was talking about, and it has to do with the costs, that as a project manager, they're kind of managing things, but they're, it was kind of complicated, but anyway, their fee structure
Mhm.
is different for a project manager versus a contractor, or for a general contractor. And there had to do with something with a project manager, it would allow them to, as their company, be able to bid on some things too, so that,
Mhm.
you know, possibly cheaper rates on that end. And then there was one other thing too, but he had just mentioned that he said you might want to look at that option.
Mhm.
And I'd never heard of that or whatever, you know, and so he just said, I'd like to be able to, just to let them know they have another option other than just a general contractor. And he said if need be, they could do general contracting too. And they said, you know, like Knutson's and stuff did for the
Right,
jail.
you're a project manager, I think, for them.
Yeah,
Justice Center.
yep. And he just said that they wanted to come in and present to the board, just to let everybody know the different options when going forward
Mhm.
that are out there in the fees associated with it, so that the board can make a decision on which direction, you know, a general contractor versus a
Mhm.
project manager, and what their services could provide to the county potentially in the future. So
Yeah.
I said I'd bring it up, and
Yeah.
he could do a lot better job describing all that than I could, but.
Mhm. I think it's best that we have all the knowledge we can get on this.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know, that was just, and I can get the information, or I don't know
Mhm.
if it comes from the board, if I should have, like,
Shar?
have Shar call him, or just say, hey, you know, you talked to Justin and the board talked about.
put them on the agenda.
If that's
Well,
something.
let's, but can we do that with, does that, part of that go into the bid process?
No, because and he doesn't want to necessarily talk about bidding it out or getting the job. He just wants to bring the information forward, that these are some of the options that you have to look forward to, and then when that process comes, when we have to select a general contractor or a project manager, whatever route we choose to go, they just said we'll put in our bid at that time. But he just said, I just wanted the board to know there's different options when going forward, how that gets structured.
I've been in on bidding projects where we've put out for RFPs for that position.
Yep.
And so my question is, if we invite one person forward, are we gonna hear that we're not giving equal opportunity to all the project managers?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I think he's just more informational. So if, say, Knutson's wanted to come in and give an informational spiel on what they could offer, I mean, it'd be no different.
Just so that if we say that,
Yeah.
then we would welcome other people doing the
Yeah,
same
and I think we should
thing,
too, just to,
you know, so we don't set a precedent
Yep.
for picking one over the other.
Yep.
is all.
Yep. So anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we should put them on the
Yeah,
agenda.
I'm curious.
We
Okay.
need as much information.
Yeah, I'll do that. It's in the car. I was gonna bring it. I forgot. So I'll get it to you after the meeting. So
Sounds good.
yeah.
Okay, anything else, Highway Department? I think we moved.
I'd like to mention something.
Go ahead.
Once again, the railroad building is up for sale again, and getting a lot of feedback from my constituents in Spring Grove. Why don't the county look at that again and make that into the maintenance shed and just have the maintenance there, and making a smaller building on the existing site with Brian's offices and a place for his car.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems, you know, when we bid on that building back a year ago, we bid with the price in mind, but I myself did not know we had some $5 million of money on hand that could have been put into that building to bring it up to be a very nice maintenance shed. So, and just
So
bringing
is
it
it-
up because
Is it going up for bid?
it's got a
or
for sale
something?
sign outside of it. It's for sale.
Hmm.
And I think with the money we have on hand, we could fix it up into a usable maintenance shed and have something over here, like a satellite shed here for the Caledonia trucks. And I think that's, to me, being conservative like I am, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Just want to know if anyone, can we consider talking about that, or is that a?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm all for kicking it around,
You
to
get,
see.
you know, that
I mean,
site also
I
has,
just want to know, I
that
guess,
site also has connecting land of 10 acres,
Mhm.
went right up to me, there's some
And
possibilities.
we did get an
Even though it's
assessment done.
halfway through its life, I don't understand it, but I've looked at it a couple times, it's a nice looking building, and we do gain some land for reasonable price.
And we did have an assessment done, or a
Mhm.
appraisal done, I should say.
At the time, I
So
didn't
we
know we
got
had
all
all
the-
this money we could put in there and made it nice. There were some shortcomings, I understand that, but I think they could be addressed. Just brought it up for discussion, because I was told, I'm hearing a lot of things from my constituents about the decisions that have been made in the last week or two. I'm not getting the response that you got, but I'm getting the opposite. People are upset. I mean, are we locked into the decision that was made last week, or?
At this point,
we
we
picked a
can always
location.
rescind your
We certainly
motion,
haven't
you know.
started
Huh?
construction.
You can always rescind the motion.
Anyway, I want to keep all options open.
Yeah, well, that would be good, Dan, and I think that needs to be discussed further.
I do.
Yeah.
Do I need to make a motion?
If you feel that you need to, sure. You're welcome to do what you need to.
Well, I don't know if I need to have a motion, have you guys.
Well, it's more of a discussion, I think, at
Yeah,
this
it's more of a
point.
I agree with you,
And,
Steve. I just want to keep this.
you want to meet with Brian? And just see what the logistics look, from his point of view, what it looks like?
Well, I know what Brian feels about it.
We need his input.
I just think the maintenance part would be good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is a good maintenance shop.
Yeah.
It is.
That's the way it looked to me.
Well, and there's good office space, and it's right next to where we currently have our own shop there
Yep.
already. That
It just connects up. So
Right.
It's an opportunity that shouldn't be neglected or pushed aside without further investigation.
Yep.
So we should probably see what they're asking for.
Through the grapevine, I heard 875.
Did you?
Mhm.
That's all.
Okay. Historic courthouse, historic jail, it's called.
I have made several calls and emails up to Minnesota Historical Society, have not had a response. I'll keep
No.
on them.
Okay. Commissioner reports. Judy?
I had EDA last week on Wednesday.
We can't hear you.
I had an EDA meeting last week on Wednesday, and we're gonna talk with Sam and Ron later today.
Who's Ron?
Ron from CETA.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about it last week.
Yep.
We're just gonna meet with him later.
Yep.
The EDA committee, or just you and Dana?
Yes.
Dana and I, Tom
That
couldn't
makes
make
sense.
it.
Okay.
That's all.
like I said, I just had that meeting with Tony from Market Johnson that we discussed. Had a couple of phone calls. One of them was from just the mayor of Caledonia, wondering what was going on as far as the highway building. Obviously, people were talking about decisions last week, so he just wanted to get clarification what was going on, because they had a city council meeting, I believe, last night. I haven't heard if anything came from that. And then, other than that, meeting-wise, pretty quiet. Comments, I guess my only thing would be just, as a board, I'd like to see the board be a little more cognizant of our policies and trying to keep consistent on things. It seems to be getting a little out of consistency and gets confusing on who can and cannot do certain things, or when we're going to make decisions or do something like that. Obviously, policies are put in place for structure and to have consistency, and been seeing that go away a lot lately. So I encourage the rest of the board to be cognizant of that and stay consistent with what we have for laws, policies, and stuff in place. So.
Teresa?
Because I had 3 funerals last week. Our EMS meeting for Thursday was canceled, lack of quorum. So, and I did offer to call one of the other commissioners to go in my place, but they decided to postpone it to June.
Dana?
I also attended the EDA meeting last week, Wednesday, with Judy, and she reported pretty well. Yesterday, I had the Southeast Minnesota Water Resource Board meeting in Orinoco. It was a good meeting, long meeting, so not much to report other than that, so that's all I had.
Yeah, I had SIMCAC last Friday night in Rochester, reviewed the 990 tax return, went over a few of their grant requests that they're processing. I met with constituents yesterday, and also met at the Heights or Caledonia City Council yesterday regarding highway shop. And discussion there was, where are we putting it? Where's the footprint going to be? Access, are we putting in the street or sharing the cost of the street? Andy Allen was there, very much concerned about runoff and also the price of the facility. So we need to either have something along the line of a citizen committee involved again, like there was before, because as I see it, I think there's a new generation that has come along since that property was bought, and the idea of putting highway shop out there. Some people weren't even aware that that was intended to be a location for the highway shop. Concerns screening, which would, I think, be appropriate for the property. Sand runoff. Talk with the school, what their thoughts are in having the facility out there. How close are we going to be and what kind of noise are we going to make? Andy was wondering if there could be a better location for a facility rather than taking out prime farmland. So at this point, my thinking would be a citizen committee made up of probably Dennis Gavin, Andy Allen, probably someone in the neighborhood of that property, someone from the school.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to be too big of a committee, but I think the people that are involved would be appropriate.
And maybe even somebody from the city council just as a representative.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
would agree with Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something along that line.
Sounds good.
I'll put something together
Yeah.
and bring some names forward.
Do that, because I think you're on to a good thing.
I know Dennis Gavin is against it, still is. I've talked to him a couple of times. He can't think of anything better, but whatever we do, I'd like him on board. He's a very, predominant citizen in
And he's got
Caledonia.
knowledge in that area.
Yeah, exactly. And Andy Allen, he's opposed to it. And neighboring has runoff problems now themselves, so I'll talk to these people and see what I can put together, and we'll run it by everybody, see if everybody's okay with who we have.
He's the landowner right on the north side of the road? Is
He's
that-
south.
or-
He would be south of, right now he has a problem with runoff from the school.
Oh, I see, okay.
Runoff and washing.
Sure.
And I don't know what's wrong up there, why that's happening, but
Chairman, who's that? Who is Andy Allen? Can you, I'm not familiar with it.
oh, he's lives
Is
right
he
outside
a-
of town, Allen Farms.
Okay.
He has a farm and
I've
he
never
runs
heard of
a
them.
construction business.
Okay.
He's probably, what, 40 years old,
Okay.
something like that.
I'm just wondering,
Mhm.
background on it.
Yeah. Okay,
Sounds
so
good. Sounds good.
I'll go move forward with that.
And maybe if people, have an interest in this, they could contact you too.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, that's what I have for reports.
Yeah, good thought, Steve.
Okay. Discussion items, approved claims, human services, and licensed center disbursements. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve claims. Human services license.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion is carried. And we need a resolution for the snowmobile club maintenance. I think that's in here somewhere. I saw one. Oh, yeah, here it is. Oh, there are two?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Address the snowmobile club.
Yeah, move to adopt resolution for snowmobile club maintenance and reviewing application.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
Are
All
you
those-
doing the La Crescent one?
We're gonna do a, oh,
Okay.
Yep,
You didn't-
individually,
Yeah. Well, you didn't say which one, that's why I thought we should
Oh,
clarify it.
sorry,
Who's
I
the
thought I
other?
read it, but that's right.
Oh, the Viking.
number for La Crescent.
Okay. That one covers La Crescent?
Yep.
Okay, you need another, you want them both?
Another one.
Another one? Okay, would someone make a motion for the Viking snowmobile club?
Yeah, I'll move to adopt a resolution for the Viking Ridge Rider snowmobile
Second.
club maintenance and grooming application.
And
I'll
second? Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Both approved. Okay. Gambling permit for Able.
I'll make a motion to approve the gambling permit for Able.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I have to
Aye.
abstain because I'm the
Okay, one
Chair.
abstention?
Yep.
Okay, and was there a nay? Approved nay, okay. Motion's carried. And discussion of county auction items, or county auction options.
I sent you all a
Mhm.
summary of the background work I did. We had talked about doing online auctions, and I found 4 different companies that would do that for us. However, when I compare the numbers, we actually come out better doing what we've been doing,
Mhm.
hiring a local auctioneer and doing it ourselves. If you go to the last page of the handout, we made 48,000 last year. We would have lost between 28,000 to 8,000 by going with any of the other companies.
Gee.
So actually, I think we're doing the right thing.
You mean
Mhm.
because of
By doing it
costs?
ourselves.
Auction?
They all charge different amounts. For example, some of them charge 30% of the profit. One company, anything that sells for $50 or less, they take the whole 50.
Oh, geez.
What we did last year, we had a bid for 6%, and we did very well.
Right.
So I think we're better off to keep doing what we're doing.
And there's no, I guess the only question would be like with an auction site, I know sometimes you might say you might get a little bit more traffic coming through there, so prices would go up, but
But when they're taking that much of a
Right.
profit, are you really coming out ahead?
right?
And don't we also include the school districts?
Exactly.
Yeah, we do.
And are we gonna still, we're talking about, before the fair, or right around that time, right?
That's my recommendation.
I mean, everyone is pretty much
August
accustomed
19th, yeah.
to having it then.
The Wednesday of the fair.
Yeah,
So
keep
if
it
you're
that
okay
way.
with that, I'll
Mhm.
proceed on that.
Yep, everybody else?
Yep, I
Yeah,
think
I'm
so.
fine with it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, item number 5 is off. And Rick?
Morning.
Good morning.
I take it, did you get a handout? Prior? Okay. All right. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I know that I've been asked to put together something for the board here. What happened in the last month, I've had personnel on medical leave, I had some on vacation, weather broke, I had contractors looking to start things up and move forward, and it got quite busy. The last week with the rain kind of helped me. It did stop a lot of things, but it did help me put together what I would like to go through with you this morning. First of all, what I'd like to ask Chairman, if that's all right, is if I could just maybe go through the whole summation of what I want to present without questions. And if you would maybe just kindly put your questions off the side, and then once we get through the presentation, and maybe have a formal discussion on questions that you have that I can answer.
Okay.
That's all right?
Consensus, does that sound all right?
Sure.
Okay, very good.
All right. What I'd kind of like to do is go over the overall operations of my office and everything that we do within the office, the responsibilities, programs that we administer throughout the county. First of all, the goal of the office is to assist the Houston County Board by providing background information for their use in making good, sound decisions. The same method is used in assisting Planning Commission, Board of Adjustment, in making their determination and recommendations on many land use requests, while taking responsibility for protecting and promoting public health, safety, and general welfare for all Houston County residents. Likewise, the same methodology is used in our solid waste and recycling programs. Our overall objectives is to provide the service efficiently and effectively in a positive and respectful manner. We are continually working to promote public confidence by staying current with county, state, and federal regulations that result in effective decision making. Who makes up the environmental services? There are 4 people that are within the office, myself being the director, Bob Scanlon, the zoning administrator, and the office staff consisting of Holly Felton and Julie Amundson. Now I'd like to do is get into the duties and responsibilities of both offices. First of all, the director is responsible for the many programs. They include recycling, solid waste, planning and zoning, the SSTS inspections, which is sub-sewage treatment systems. That's your sewage systems that go in. Wetlands, water planning, the Ag BMP low-interest loan programs, and working with state and federal agencies. First of all, I'd like to get into with each different office that the hats that we wear. The first is the recycling program, and what all goes with that on a daily basis and a yearly basis. First of all, there's many contracts that we've got that we provide gets services provided for us, and that we do business on a daily basis with. First of all, we continually do services with Ultrametal and recycling for our aluminum appliances and the ferrous metal that people bring into the drop sites. The second is with Dynamics Recycling for electronic waste, which includes your computers, TVs, personal electronic devices, and sorts. All that is basically taken in to the drop sites on a daily basis and then brought back to the recycling center to be separated into certain categories so that some of that can get, that when it goes off our docks, some of it we pay, some of it we don't. It goes off our docks for nothing. Companies reimburse that back. We have contracts with green recycling. That's for the closed-top containers, that all the recycling coming in for the rural areas. That is hauled weekly over to, which is harder, in La Crosse, where we have contracts with, where we are paid for the fibered material, but we pay for the rigid material. It's a good contract that actually has saved us now some money, just because we did get a good price for the material last spring when we bid that out than we had before. We also have contracts with all the with La Crosse. That La Crosse County, we got full use of the landfill, their household hazardous waste facility, XL Energy for the incinerator, and the many programs that they offer, such as the sustainability. We've had him, Nick Nichols, come over and talk to you a little bit. We can piggyback on a lot of those programs. We have the option of hazardous waste that comes in and generated in the county that can be taken directly to La Crosse on a weekly basis when they're open. So it has been a very good win-win situation for Houston County and its residents by signing those contracts in La Crosse. We have been a regional partner in La Crosse since 1990, so it has been a good, I think, a good mix for Houston County as far as addressing all the solid waste recycling needs that we have. The last thing, or not the last thing, but the next thing is Veolia of North America. Every year we do negotiate contracts with them for the light bulb collection. This year, when we did collect for that first week in April, we probably did close to 8,000 to 9,000 bulbs that we ended up collecting for that week from residents and businesses in the county, and then disposed of through North America. They're right out of the cities where those are taken to for recycling purposes again. The last thing is Woodland Industries. That is contracted labor that we have to run the recycling center and the drop-off. There is 4 individuals that we have contracted with. As I indicated, I did have some problems there for a couple of weeks because of we had one out on medical reasons and the other one was on vacation, so it was a scramble for a couple of weeks just to make sure we could cover everything. We work with La Crosse County on our hazardous waste facility. This year, I just want to mention that we've got 3 collections scheduled in this county. We got the first one, as you can see, is coming up May 21st from 1 to 6. It's at the recycling center, which is next week. And then we got one in July 8th and again in August 26th. I might add, starting this year, if you remember, we did sign a contract with the State Department of Agriculture. This is the first year where we'll be offering services for pesticides, insecticides to come in at the same time. There will be no charge for that material as it comes to, because we've now joined with the Department of Agriculture for that disposal. Normally in the past it has been where they would come in every other year. This gives us now farmers or even residential owners that have that type of material to come in and drop it off 3 times during the year rather than once every other year. So it's basically a good savings to the state, and it's also a good program for the county where we can offer that even more access for disposal. Funding for recycling comes from, a lot of our funding comes from recycling, which is for what we call SCORE. It's a Select Committee on Recycling and the Environment. For many years, the current recycling was right around 50 until the last couple of legislative sessions where they did bump that up now. Houston County's current funding is at $71,665. That has to be matched on a dollar per dollar, but the program and the services that we offer, as you'll note in another slide here, that it far exceeds that dollar for dollar. We have the sale of recyclables, aluminum, corrugated. It's the fluorescent bulbs where we have, and what I mean by that is Tri-County, Excel Energy, cities of Caledonia, Spring Grove, and Eitzen do pay for the disposal up to 10 bulbs in that. That's part of the funding on that. Our household hazardous waste participation, the state pays us a stipend, which is a reimbursement back for every participant that we have that comes through and drops off material. Last year, I think last year it was just about $3,600, and this is a stipend that goes statewide. It's just a pot of money that's there, and normally what we do in order to encourage participation, we offer a 50% discount on materials coming in on them 3 days that we have for material brought in. We split with the residents, and the county pays 50, we pay 50, and then we charge that for the 50% that the homeowner has. There's a charge for that material that's already negotiated ahead of time. As you'll know, recycling budgets, it's hard to, when we're going through budgets in July, you're basing it on markets that are, you're guessing. A lot of times that can fluctuate in just a short period of time. It's like gasoline, they can go up and down pretty quick. And you try to keep track of that and try to second guess, especially like your cardboards. Aluminum comes in at a steady pace, but cardboard and that sort of material, it's kind of a guessing game, which will have a direct effect on our end revenues. Our current budget for the recycling program for 2015, our revenues is estimated at about $180,000, with our expenditures just at about $362,000. Now, part of that revenue, like I say, is part of the SCORE money in there, and as you can see, dollar for dollar, we do exceed that, which is what most counties do. It's about a 3 or 4 to 1 versus what the state gives us for those programs. Next. We'll get into the solid waste programs. Part of what I want to do is at 22 is, and the first thing that I want to mention too is Houston County has a solid waste management plan, and that plan was developed, and it has been an updated amendment a number of times. These are 10-year plans that we put together. The last time it was amended was in 2008. And we'll have to amendment again here probably and give it about another year to start working on that again and what that does is basically outlines what we as a county and a vision that we have from where we're going to go for the next 10 years. That keeps in mind, you know, and that's what this here book is. This is the whole 10-year plan, so if anybody would have want to take a look at that, by all means come down to the office and take a look at it. There's a lot of things that are in there, programs, and it describes programs and kind of like a vision on where we want to go and to meet our responsibilities with lacrosse. That was a good guide here back about 10 years, or not 10 years, in 2010 when we revamped our zoning ordinance and worked with contractors and to shore up our solid waste issues with material that were going out of state rather than fulfilling our contract with lacrosse. So it was a good driving force in that we could use that. The second thing I have there is the drop sites. Currently, Houston County employs 67-day employees to run those drop sites. That's just on Saturdays. There's two, as I mentioned before, we have a contract with Woodland that supplies the personnel during the week, and then we have up to about 15 67-day employees to run it on weekends. We have agreements with every city and township. That household fee, that's $3 per household fee to run the operations and disposal of the material that's brought in. That program was started in 1991. We found out back then not everything can fit into a bag. When we originally put our recycling and curbside program together, and the problem, what we call problem materials, couches, chairs, carpeting, appliances, that sort of stuff, don't fit in a bag. So we come up with the idea of the drop sites, and every city and township agreed with that, and that has been a lifesaver for a lot of the material that's coming through. I will say our dumping, illegal dumping, went down to about nil when that started, because if you give them an option and you give them a place to go that's convenient and accessible, they'll bring it in. The next thing is the rebate we get through La Crosse, through Richard Sanitation. That contract was offered from La Crosse County to all the haulers. We have a contract with Richard Sanitation, and that contract runs through 2023. The contract that we have with them now, La Crosse County offered all the townships or all the contractors a 10% rebate, and that was basically to ensure the material coming into La Crosse so things would not go out and material outside La Crosse County. Well, Richard Sanitation and with our agreements, they are reimbursing the county back now 7% of that 10%. And that goes back to Houston County, and the 6,600 there that you see is that 7% of what we're hauling over. The next thing is the $5 per ton credit. I don't know if a lot of you are aware of that, but that 5 ton goes to cover Houston County's annual fee or bill that we have with La Crosse County. That fee started in, I think it was about 2003 or 4. I can't remember, but I think about 2003. We ran into a problem with the federal government changed air quality standards, and it reclassified the incinerator to a different category where we were required to update the pollution control equipment that went at the incinerator, and it was agreed upon to split that cost based on usage. Our fee come to about $220,000, and what we agreed to do is basically La Crosse is reimbursing Houston County back as part of our agreement to put everything to La Crosse. Basically what we haul to La Crosse and we receive credit on pays that $20,000. So there's really, we don't have to tax anything more for it. We're getting that credit, which does pay for our yearly fee. So it works out good that way. The next thing is we are an active member of the La Crosse County Solid Waste Policy Board. Teresa was on it, and Judy's on it now, and it's a committee where we basically have communications and input on anything they do in La Crosse as far as programs, funding. It's a board that's put together on a regional basis, and all the participants get a chance to weigh in on the different things that are going on as far as all the programs and everything. It's been a good formula for us to keep track of what's going on as far as programs and how we can piggyback and better service our residents here along with La Crosse County. Part of that agreement says that we will not be treated any different than a La Crosse County resident, so that has been very comfortable, and whatever affects them then will affect us, but it's been a very good working relationship. Another thing, annually we license solid waste haulers. Part of our agreement And our solid waste ordinance back when we adopted in 2010 was that we have contracts now with all haulers. We do license them. We do require them to send in quarterly reports so we can keep track of the volume not only of refuse, demolition, but also recyclables. That goes into our annual reports that we are required to, once a year, to put into the state. And that's what that SCORE report was about. That's a measuring stick that the state uses to look at statewide how programs are being run and how effective they are. The annual and the haulers we do have under contract, and that's specifically within that contract runs through, every hauler is under license, they're under contract through 2023 that does business in this county. Once in a while we will get a hauler that comes in from outside that will do business, and it don't take long before the phone will ring and we have to address it. Because like I said, our contracts with La Crosse specifically states we need to take it to La Crosse. And the haulers kind of basically police themselves too. I mean, if somebody comes in, you know, they like to see it, and everything's bedded on the same basis. You know, it's everybody's got the same pricing, so it's very competitive. The next I have is, as I mentioned before, the quarterly reports, and that's the tonnages that are hauled out of to those 3 facilities. The next thing I have there is of enforcing the solid waste rules. As complaints and concerns of improper dumping come in, those all have to be addressed. We do have a solid waste ordinance that was sitting here. The last time this, and like I said, was adopted by the board in December of 2010. There's a number of requirements in here, not only of haulers, but residents as far as separating recycling materials, and what is recyclable, what isn't, and how our solid waste system is put together and is supposed to run. So that has been very effective. The last bullet there is our budgeting. We do have numerous programs, and what we do is try to project for the future modifications of programs, how we're going to, you know, sometimes you know, different businesses may pop up that we can take advantage of that will offer a different or a better pricing. On the horizon is things that we're looking at right now is, and that's getting pushed, that got mentioned at the last policy board meeting, is mattress recycling. There's a new company in La Crosse that just started up that would that wants to take advantage of mattress recycling. The county of La Crosse is kind of pushing that. Just because of the fact you put it into landfills, it's a very, it takes a lot of space, plus it's a conduit for, good conduit for fires. They did have one fire in La Crosse a few years back, but they don't want that repeated again, but mattresses are kind of a good conduit for that. And also, we've been continually looking over the last how many years, ag bag plastic. It's a big problem out there. We realize that. There isn't a whole lot of avenues yet that we can do. We did some testing with last spring, a year ago last spring, about wood waste and the egg bag plastic mix sent to the incinerator La Crosse. It was a very good product. It did get sent over. The problem is the expense. The machines are probably in that $750,000 to $900,000. So that's an alternative that we're working on. Next. Oh, and on our budget for the 2015, as you can see, between the expenditures and the revenue, we're not far off of being sustainable on that. Wetlands, is a program that's getting to be quite big. The county has been administering the Wetland Conservation Act along with the Soil Conservation Service since 1995. We do run through a number of applications every year. The county is responsible for the wetland, and that's just what we call the Chapter 8420. This is what was handed down by the federal government that states and are mandated to administer, and that got handed down to the counties to both run it, both for technical expertise and for enforcement. The objective of the wetlands is to preserve and protect all types of wetlands that are in Houston County. The way we have our working relationship, we work with the Board of Water and Soil Resources, which is Bowser. You have the Department of Natural Resources. The County Corps of Engineers sits on that same board, along with the Red River Soil and Water Conservation and the Houston County Highway Department. It has served us as a TEP panel quite well. The funding comes from two things. One is, as we implement the wetland rules, the state does give us a grant for a little over $12,000. We are required to, by statute, to match that with $6,100 worth of levy money and $6,100 in in-kind service. Most of that levy money that you see there goes to the Soil Conservation Service for their personnel in helping do the technical expertise or technical work ahead of on applications to make sure that when applications come through that they're complete and that we don't. There's a lot of times where they can go out and do a lot of the footwork. Some things are exempt. Some of them they do have a certain amount of that they can footage that they can get exemptions from. So it's good for them to do the footwork ahead of us. All the applications as they come through are reviewed by that technical evaluation panels. Number one is to make sure they're complete and that we have all the information, and that when we make a decision that to the county board that you guys have all the information and research done ahead of you so that you can make a good sound decision on the application itself. The next is part of ours. We have what we call the Ag BMP loan program. This is a low-interest loan program that the State Department of Agriculture has contracted with counties. This initially is money that comes from the federal government down to the state. There's certain mandate or criteria that we have to meet. We can use these monies, and we've worked with the Water Planning Board originally on this. And what they have asked us to put request in for is for things like feedlots, septic system, well replacement, and abandonments. We've had a lot of people take advantage of these low interest loans. The criteria is basically in this county that we've set up is that you have to be just a resident. There is no financial criteria. It's just if you have a non-conforming feedlot, septic system, or well, you qualify. We did put funding in for 2015, just at about $637,000 that we have available to our residents for these types of projects. Okay, zoning administrator. What I'd like to do there is to give you some of his duties and what the responsibilities. The zoning administrator is responsible for zoning permits. Part of that requires site inspections, septic system inspections, soil erosion plans. Those are all part of the zoning permits, and that's what gets looked at on every application. When you start getting into building on hillsides like bluffland pulls in, driveways, we use the soil conservation to assist us in those types of, and bluffland, make sure things get seeded down, and if there's any land alterations or landscaping that needs to take place, they're involved with that. So every zoning permit does require a certain amount of time to take a look at all this. We also get a lot of requests from And we provide a lot of information not only to county residents, its contractors, livestock producers, Board of Adjustments, for variances, zoning appeals. I might add that the zoning administrator in the morning, I know, spends a lot of time with a lot of calls. And that's, and we're trying to answer the phones in questions, or he actually of people coming through the doors, of assisting them in meeting and asking questions about zoning permits and what it takes to build in Houston County. He also works with planning commissions on conditional use permits. That's public hearings. That interim use permits, which is another public hearing. And then zoning amendments is if somebody wants to rezone property that they want to alter from normally from residential into, or from ag into residential is most of it. He also works with feedlots. Those are inspections, and we look at expansions and registrations, complaints, enforcement. Bob spends a lot of time, especially in the inspection forms. We are required by the state to take a look at the number of inspections. I think it's about 7% of our total volume per year. We have exceeded that amount in most years, and I think about 2-3 weeks ago, Bob did come in with we did get an extra check, some extra funding of over $10,000 because of the program that he's administering and going above and beyond the requirements that the state has mandated us and the inspections that we are required to do. Subsurge sewage treatments and inspections, I'll get into that just a little bit more, but that's part of his responsibilities, along with amendments to the zoning ordinance and maps. As you know, we also work with violations, penalties, enforcements of the zoning ordinance. We do get, and we do have on file a lot of complaints right now just because of the mining and the non-conforming mines. I'll get into that in just a little bit here too, as far as how we're addressing that. Zoning permits, I kind of want to walk you through as far as what does it take for a zoning permit. The process to obtain a zoning requires the following steps. We usually meet on site on a pre-application between the landowner and with county staff. And normally if they're setting up and we know ahead of time that there is going to be a building going up or something, we will take not only a number of information from the county, like our mapping and different things with us, but we'll also take out somebody from the soil and water conservation districts so we can kill two birds with one stone, and meet on site with the individual, walk through where his driveway is going, walk through what kind of landscaping he's putting it on, household. There's also a number of other layers that go involved with that, floodplains, shorelands, that also overlay on a lot of these applications. Once we have met on site and the permits and everything are filled out, we ask them to meet with the township boards for a pre-application. It always has been part of our department that we include townships on everything we do. Normally there's things out there that sometimes that staff is not aware of. The township may have been working with individuals, or there's some kind of a problem with roads or something that we're not aware of. It keeps them in the loop as far as input on permit applications. We also have them as a township sign off on every application. Once that is all done, the application, all the supporting documentations are in and the appropriate fees are paid, we then do a follow-up with all the compliance things, and then from there we take a look at the different programs. You've got FEMA, DNR, the soil erosion, as I said before, land alteration, performance standards that all come into play with each application to make sure that they all the application is in conformance with all of those. Once the application, like I said, from there it goes to the planning commission and then eventually to the county board here. After construction is completed on the project. The county is supposed to be required to, what we would do is issue a COC, which is a certificate of compliance. Because of everything we have going on, we have issued a lot of zoning permits. We have not quite been able to follow up on those COCs as best we could. I'd like to do that a lot better. Each house, it'd be our way of going back and checking everything to make sure it's in conformance with the plan that was set. And we need to take a look at that a lot closer. The Board of Adjustment. The zoning administrator acts as the secretary to that Board of Adjustment. He does not have any zoning authority or voting authority on that. What we are required to do is bring in all supporting documentation or report to the Board of Adjustment for all applications. We need to take a look at the aerial photos that are given. We give kind of a site history and everything that went into and the reasons for the variance being requested. And then the ZA zoning administrator also follows up with that report to the county board. The Board of Adjustment decision is basically, they're the final decision maker on those, and the county board, what he brings into you basically is for your public knowledge. The Board of Adjustment holds public hearings then for all zoning variances and appeals. And appeals, I mean, if there's decisions made by staff that the public has a right then to petition to the Board of Adjustment to overlook that decision by staff and that they can make their argument against or that decision. So, Planning Commission. The zoning administrator acts also as the secretary to the Planning Commission. Again, he has no voting authority. The staff is required to provide all supporting documentation and make reports to the Planning Commission for all applications. The Planning Commission does make those recommendations to the county board for final approval. The Planning Commission a lot of times will make recommendations and put extra stipulations on permits and things to maybe meet concerns that the public has in regards to public health, safety, and welfare, to make sure that those applications will meet some of those standards that we have. And then that recommendation, along with those standards, is given to the county board for your consideration and approval. Again, the condition uses in the interim and zoning permits, amendments, we're all looking, those all have what we call, we're under state statute where we have to look at those applications. Once, as a staff person, we indicate that application is complete, we're under what we call the 60-day rule. That 60-day rule, what that says is we need to make a decision within 60 days on the application itself. We can go up to 120 days with the application, one extension, but the decision must be made within that time frame. It does not allow the county to drag out applications for any extended period of time. Also, we are faced with environmental assessment worksheets, EAWs. We have done a couple of those in-house on rock quarries, feedlots. They get very extensive and time-consuming. We do have provisions within the ordinance whereby now applicants can pay for that, or we can assess that those fees and go out to a third party to have those EAWs looked at. We have started that process once before, but the project was removed and discontinued, so we didn't complete the EAW. Next one. Feedlots, I just kind of roughly, touched on some of these before. Like I say, the state requires us to run 7% inspection rates on our feedlots. We try to do 10 of our registered feedlot. Feedlots, anytime there's an expansion, not only does it trigger a conditional use on expansions, but it also, their feedlot permits also have to be modified to make sure they're in compliance with the 70/20 rules. Every feedlot within the county needs to be registered. That has to be done every 4 years. So we need to go back to every, as you'll see, there's 525 feedlots in this county. Every one of them needs to be followed up with and then modified if they're indicating any expansion or whatever. We need to address it at that time. Actually, like I said, we had 525, of which 417 are required to be registered. Reason for that is you have some feedlots that are under the minimum amounts that we would consider by state feedlot as 10 animal units within a residential, 50 within an agricultural district. Some feedlots, they register them, but still they're under that 50, but they want to register to make sure that they're in compliance, and we handle them same way. We follow up on complaints that come through the zoning office and enforcement. We do get a number of complaints that come in. I think this day and age, and what really drive a lot of things is the chance for disease, the chance for things to be spread. They want to make sure manure and runoff is handled on each feedlot before it's you see the water come down to make sure that it has been properly treated. We do work quite closely on a lot of these enforcement actions with the Houston County Attorney's Office. We have sent out, and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is also, when we do get complaints, are notified of and kept in the loop as far as what's going on. Okay. Again, what we call SSTS, or the subsurface sewage treatment. This is one area that has really taken a lot of time out of our office. It normally used to be trench systems in the county whereby the contractor who was putting it in was in charge of the design and then install, and then the county would come back and just make sure that the install was properly put in according to what the design they had. That has really took a change in 2010 when the new rules came out, and the counties are now required to are mandated to administer. Every site we have to go in, number one, to do a soil verification, and that's to make sure that it's scarified. And then we're also required to go back 2 to 3 times on that site while it's being installed or contracted or built. We are doing somewhere around 75, probably to 100 systems a year. Most of these systems now, instead of trenches, are above ground. They're mounds. A lot more work that goes into those. You not only got to check for you want clean sand on the inside, filter beds, the rock, the piping, sizing, pumps. It's got quite more extensive than what we had in the past. Every one of those sites are then mapped in, and we have been keeping a log since 1985 on any system that has gone in. We have those files within our office. It has been a good blessing for contractors to go back out sometimes and troubleshoot, and then they also go back out, and if they have to do a reinspection, they know what's on the ground, and we have a map of it. They know where to go. I said the county is required to administer and what we call the septic system rules, which is 70/80. We not only have the requirements in the townships, but we are also, as a county, mandated to do it inside city limits also. We do get from time to time. Right now I'm working with 2 cities that have systems going in where they do not have city sewer and water. Our process is basically to contact the city, get a written letter from them saying that there is no intent of putting city sewer and water, and then giving the county the notification of an approval of going ahead and administer the 70/80 rules inside city limits. That way then both of us are covered as far as what's going to go in. That's followed up then with everything, our inspections and applications. The city gets a full copy of all that to know that it went in proper. Compliance is, we do follow up on a lot of non-conforming septic systems. What happens is if you're doing a homeowner is in the process of selling, or if there's a complaint, we'll, especially what we're getting now is we're with lending institutions wanting inspections done prior to home sale. We're finding a lot of systems are getting tagged now because they cannot meet requirements. There's a 3-foot separation distance between what they call the bottom of the trench and what groundwater, where our groundwater is. And that is all done by IDing it in soils. We need to take training we got to keep a certain amount of training in order to keep our licenses. And the contractor who's putting that septic system in and the county go out and verify that. What we're finding is the systems that were put in prior to 2010 cannot meet that anymore. So basically what it's done is pushed all of our systems above ground. We might see 1 to 2 systems as what we call trenches in ground nowadays. Everything is above ground, at grades or mounds. And like I said, that has taken a lot of time. The state does reimburse the county back through block grants of about $18,000, but that does not begin to cover all the expense that it takes to make sure those systems are put in properly and up to code. And then, like I said, we keep records of all those systems that are in file. We're also now mapping these even onto the GIS system, so that if a homeowner wants to go on, we can flag it. It gives the year it's been put in and stuff, and we can go back to our files then and pull that information if need be. Amendments to zoning ordinance and maps. And this basically what it amounts to is within the last, since 2000, we have had requests to go back and amend the zoning ordinance several times. In the past, that used to be something that we used consultants to help us with because we did not have the time nor the expertise to turn around a lot of times to work on that. Since 2000, those 7 times, that has all been done in-house to not only, which had ended up saving the county a lot of monies, but we also had a chance to work with local groups. We've had a chance to, planning commissions were involved, and members of the county board as we walked through those zoning ordinance amendments and maps. Right now, the Planning Commission and the zoning administrator is working on what we call urban expansion district. What that means is what we're looking at is places around the city where development could probably take more development in just because the future is for expansion on cities going that direction. It also gives us a better chance to supply not only sewer, water, fire, police protection, ambulances. We're a lot faster. That's where development probably should take more intensity rather than less. So they're working on something like that right now, and that's in discussion. They would like to see if they're going to do something like that, would have that completed by 2015. As I indicated, that was done by outside consultants in the past, and right now staff and the Planning Commission are doing that in-house. There's 2 ways, as I say, the maps are brought forward to the county board. That's through an application by an individual if they want to petition the county for, and that happened recently in interim use permits. There's some things that the ordinance calls out for that are not long within a district, so what they do is what we call interim. It's just a matter of, it's set on time rather than goes along with the property. and that's what an interim. And what we've been finding a lot of times is some of those interims, as they get up and started and moving forward, they grow some till they move from the country into the city where they're more visible and they can do a lot more business. So it's a way for them to get started. Violations, penalties, enforcements. This here, what we're going through is as the violations on once they're received. There's different ways we handle them, enforcements, to make sure that the violation becomes into compliance. One's through such things as after the fact permits. That has just been started with the last couple of years. They get kind of expensive in that the after the fact permit now is triple the fee from what if you'd have came in before. So it gives an incentive to come into compliance. We have things such as stop work orders, cease and desist orders, and as far as we have that a couple of different times where we've actually had structures that had to be removed because of circumstances that could not be met, and then in order to come into compliance, the structure had to be moved or removed. Like I say, after the fact permits are triple the cost. We do work closely with the county board on a lot of those. County Sheriff's Office, County Attorney's Office, that may be called on from time to time to enforce the provisions of the ordinance. Subdivision ordinance, we're getting to see more and more of. These two are very a lot of time stuck into it. We worked with originally with the landowners, and most of our zoning subdivisions are taking agricultural land into residential zoning. That's where it's going to come into play with more around the cities where they can offer the public services better timing and everything else. The process includes, we need to rezone something. It includes a public hearing. They file a preliminary plat, and then lastly a final plat. But those review process goes through a number of different agencies, as you'll see listed. We keep the town board in there, the county engineer, Soil Conservation Service. The municipalities, as of recently, within the last few years, have been really weighing in on this because they have future plans on these cities and where they would like to see where growth takes place, whether it be for residential, business, industrial, and they want to we want to make sure we're all on the same page as those services are, and we expand city limits. Again, we run into with the Minnesota DOT on highway projects, the DNR, and then also the E911 coordinators. Now, certifications by the following, and what we have done now is provided sign-off spaces for every one of these agencies so that we know the final plat is in conformance not only with the platting procedures that the state has, but also that these people have all looked and checked on the final plat to make sure that it's done properly and it meets their criteria. And as you can see, it's checked over. Roads are checked over to make sure they're going to be built right with the proper design. Surveyor to make sure the land descriptions are right, and so forth. Okay. I just want to go through some of the funding that the county that we have. But another thing I want to, before I go a little bit beyond that, there's a couple other things that I want to kind of go through too. Is I know that before I get into the funding, some of the complaints that we get in has been on mining and the non-conforming mines. A couple of months ago, we've already started the process of bringing these non-conforming mines into conformance. What our plan of action basically is taking a look at all these mines that were registered in 1972 with descriptions that were vague. They listed 40s up to all the way up to 160 acres. When we're going through now and looking at those and going back through, we're finding that these descriptions now include not only the individual, but a lot of these parcels have been split several times. And I just kind of want to do is give you a copy of a letter that is what we're sending out to every one of these parcels that are that people own parcels within this. What we're asking the parcels that are within that description is to contact the county. It's kind of a straightforward letter that we've worked with the staff to develop. I've had discussions with the county attorney's office as far as what we're doing to make sure that we're in compliance, and that if we do run into problems that they're going to be kept in the loops, and that we do meet zoning requirements as the standards that are set forth today. Like I said, we started off, most of these mines are now, and the property is owned by several parcel or people now, that they have been split up. We are starting in, and we've notified 4 townships. We're starting in alphabetical order. We have Brownsville, Crooked Creek, Black Hammer, and Caledonia are the first ones to get notified. These letters went out probably about a month ago, and that we are starting now to require, one is if you are going to continue to have a registered mine, and then 2 is we're going to bring it forward. We want to clean up legal descriptions, and we also want to make sure reclamation plans are going to be on file on anybody that wants to keep a mine registered. So as we go forward, you will probably maybe getting calls now as we're going forward. Like I said, we're going to address every one of these mines that we have on that registration list that are now non-conforming, and we're going back through and try to bring those all into conformance. We'll have a better handle then as far as what's active, what's not active, and that, like I said, if they're going to stay active, will require a number of things that they'll need, performance standards and things that we'll need to meet. The other thing I wanted to, before I get into the funding too, is that I didn't mention is water planning, which Dana sits on. And that's a useful committee that basically looks at all, not only underground and our drinking water, but also a lot to do with our surface water runoff. Right now, there's a big push on the state. What they'd want to do is, and they're basically going to what they call one watershed, one plan. And we're going to begin with the Root River watershed, and you can about imagine the size of that plans that are going to have to be developed, and it covers a multitude of counties. You're looking at everything from Mower County coming east, Wabasha, or not Wabasha, but Winona, Olmsted, Fillmore, and like I said, what they're trying to do is have one watershed, one plan to cover a whole host of different issues within those watersheds to clean up the water quality. They want those plans developed and drafted and hopefully approved by the end of the year, by 2015. That is also going to take a lot of meetings, a lot of times to develop those. And I think, like I said, if you've got more, Dana's been sitting in on those, and not only on a local but on a regional, on the Zumbro Valley.
I think it's going to be done in 2016.
But they want the final. They want a kind of a draft done by the end of the.
Implemented by 2016.
Yeah. So we've got our work cut out in that respect. Now, as far as funding, I just want to go through some of the monies that comes into the office. And just keep in mind that most of all these have to have year-end reports on, and we have to explain where that money went and what we did with it. The SSTS grant, which is sewage treatment system, that's the $18,000 or almost $19,000. There's no match required. That goes into not only pays for the expenses of some of our, we don't get enough money in fees to cover the cost of the amount of time we have to do to run inspections and everything. The state kicks in that amount. Like I said, we are required to keep licensing and education up in that. In order to keep our license, we have to have so many continuing ed credits in order to keep our license from year to year. We do get money from the base feedlot. That's the amount right there. You'll see the base grant is $40,000, and then there's a $28,123 in match. That match comes from local landowners when they implement different things, strategies in order to clean up such things as buffer strips, concrete walls, guttering on buildings. That's all part of that match. Again, I want to say we were awarded because of the superior performance that we have going above and beyond state requirements. We were given an additional $10,665 by the state because we did succeed or more than met their minimum standards. Wetland Conservation Act, as I said before, that's the funding we get, and then the matching that we have to have. The federal grants, they're to be utilized for cost-sharing projects, and what we try to do is use most of that on-ground services. On projects, that's where we get the most bang for our money. And then the last bullet there is what our revenue to expenditures are. And as you can see, we take in about 50% of revenue compared to the expenditures that we have. In summary, I just want to say is we try our best and as a staff, and the responsibilities that we have and the programs that we have just about touches every man, woman, and child in the county on a daily basis. It's not only in your garbage, but in the water you drink, the food we eat. Some of the achievements that we've succeeded in, and I think you have different plaques that were on the walls, not only from the state, but on national recognition of different programs that we have started and have been awarded because of we're meeting and exceeding standards in programs. Are we satisfied where we're at? I'd say no, because programs, issues continually keep changing, funding keeps changing, technology keeps changing, and we need to change right with it. And what I'm looking at is and incorporate a lot of those changes into our daily work schedules, which is getting to be more difficult. Now, what I asked in the next one has to do with there's questions as how do we address and things go forward with the different issues that we have. And what I'm looking at is with the board is we need better communications on a daily basis. When there's problems do arise between commissioners, the public, the staff, I'd like to say we need that better communications. I know there's on a daily basis because of the field that we're in, and I'm saying with environmental service, it's a regulatory field. We are in charge of enforcement of rules and regulations. Are we going to step on toes? Yes. Would I like to see the board and what we can do best we can is to keep you informed of those situations of communications, to let you know if we do run into problems, to keep you and if it's in your district, to keep you apprised of that. I've had those discussions now with staff that if we're going to move forward on some of these things that you as a commissioner be involved or at least you're apprised of what's going on. And like I said, what I'd like to see is better communications between the commissioners, the staff, and public. That they have better, or they feel comfortable coming in and talking with staff. Education. We would, what I'm looking at here is we need to educate better the public on requirements needed for applying permits. Going through after the fact permits or putting stop work orders or cease and desist takes a lot of time, takes extra staff time. It's more staff in the county attorney. There's more ramifications than just turning around and putting a stop work order. It costs every tax buddy in the county in tax dollars for when that happens. What I'm looking for is basically maybe throwing ads in papers, working with contractors to say, hey, you know, make sure permits are in line before they actually proceed with work. What I also want to do is meet more with township officers, city officials. I do that, or try to do that, with city officials now, with solid waste especially, to keep them apprised of, you know, they're funding us somewhat on the $3 to go back and what did that all accomplish? Same thing I think we should do with township officials. We do meet periodically in their yearly meetings of giving them updates. But some townships may have a little more questions than others. Some have different issues than others. They have more development going around, especially for cities, that maybe we need more communications between township officials and staff and county boards. What I'm also looking at is training. I do know that in the past, training has been something that has been kind of put to the side just because it's something that was not required, except those things that to keep our certifications. I'm looking at as we move forward down the line, we've got such things as programs now are being at the state level that we are required to put information into. We have no idea, and those programs are being updated and changed. We need training. We have some of those trainings are up to 3 days. That the programs and are changing that much that we need to send staff to those types of programming. And I'm not just talking the computer time things. I'm talking other types of programs to deal with the needs of the department. Such thing as how do we better ourselves in dealing with people. Stress of the office, those types of things we could use. I'd like to budget as we go forward, and that's something that I think we'll need discussions when we come in July for future programming. The other thing what I want to do also is work with the personnel committee and looking at, I've been looking hard on this here to look at the staffing needs of the department. We have taken on a lot more duties, responsibilities, mandates with these last how many years without any looking at personnel. It's getting to the point now with the amount of duties that we have and the implementation and enforcement of the different programs. In order to do a justification, we do not have the staffing to meet those needs. And what I want to do is basically work with the personnel committee to look at those needs, look at how other counties are meeting those needs, looking at the funding that's we basically have available to us in block grants and different things, and see if we can come up with a better way of, and if we need additional staffing, to come back to the full board, say in July or thereafter of what we come out of that type of communications between the personnel committee and staffing. And then the last of all, what I'd like to see is the requirements boards want us to meet. I know that we had some directive in the fall with personnel that we have in the office. We have met all those in a timely manner, and we have since moved on. We are now working on a lot of the the ordinance amendments, the binding, and the other different responsibilities and the programs, and we're trying to focus as best we can on that. We have taken those directives from you as a board quite seriously. We have worked with HR, and we have, like I said, we have met everything, and we are moving on, and we're trying to do the best we can in a timely manner. Like I say, the workload and the demands in the office right now with construction going on, we are busy. And that's what I'm saying. I apologize for not getting any earlier, but I felt sometimes that the workload sitting there and trying to prioritize things, I didn't want to hold the contractors back off any more than we had to, so we're trying to cover both ends. So, like I said, thank you for letting me have the time to address the full board on the requirements in our office, the duties, the responsibilities, the programs, and some of the funding, so that you have maybe a little better knowledge of everything that goes through the Environmental Services Office. Thank you. I'll open it if you got any questions.
Real quick, are you planning on coming in next week?
Right now, I took a look at some of the things that if it's nice, Justin, my workload gets to the point where I can't promise that, no.
Sure. I guess I'd like you to be able to come into at some point here, 4 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, I guess. I made a motion, and it was carried unanimously, that have you come in and present to the board how you plan to restore the public trust in your office. And that was the whole reason for coming in. And I guess I just wanted to know if you're going to come in and address that, or what the plan was.
Well, I feel giving this knowledge and what we go through and the enforcement that we have, the public is well aware of the type of programs that we administer. Are we going to, as I said before, are we going to step on a few toes when we go through with enforcement? Are we going to make everybody happy? No. Are the rules that are set there to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public? That is going to, from time to time, turn around and we're going to have to say no. And that's the nature of what these programs are. The overall picture that we are trying to accomplish is to make sure that we've got safe water. We've got safe drinking water. The standards that we've been given by the state as far as the mandates are met. I think the trust in that is portrayed out there, I think the vast majority of the county realize that the enforcement and the programs that we have been implemented for the last how many years are working. You take a look at what's out there right now as far as our systems, solid waste system. You take a look at standards that, from FEDOT and the upgrades. We do not have the degradation that we had years ago just because of the implementation and the programs that we have been moving forward with. I think the public understands where we're going and what we're trying to do.
So let me rephrase my question, because you're skirting around it. How would you restore the public trust in your office in regards to the activities that have taken place over the last several months?
I'd say the same as what we're doing right now. I think the public understands, and I'll say that again, of what we're doing. We're in charge of different programs that we have to meet certain standards. Are we going to meet everybody's standards for what they want to do? No. It's no different than a state regulation, a county regulation. I don't think the trust is not there. I think the public looks at us as to implement the programs that we have. They're there for a reason, and that they expect us as a taxpayer to implement those, and that's what we do.
Okay, I'll give you an example then, because it's still kind of skirting around it a little bit here. So when somebody comes in for a permit and they're denied a permit, and they have the distrust that, was I denied the permit for just cause, or am I denied the permit because somebody doesn't feel the same sentiment that I do about a political issue, or that they don't like me, or that, well, I stood up for this. There's a lot of distrust in that mannerisms, and we all know why. So how do you restore the public trust that they're getting treated fairly and even when we've had issues where they haven't been in the past? How do you address that?
There is a process in place. When staff make a decision, there's a they can do is they can apply to the Board of Adjustment to have that decision looked at, and if not, appeal. There is no problem with that. They come in with the proper, we're in charge of basically administering an ordinance. And that's what I'm saying. Does it exactly spell out everything black on white at times when we're in the field? No. Everybody's got different things and different ideas. We cannot begin to even address everything that is possibly out there that's going to affect our agricultural district, a residential district, whatever it may be. But there is a process in place that if the applicant, landowner, does not feel that he has been treated or a decision made was proper, they can appeal that decision to the Board of Adjustment. That has been in place for a long time already.
Sure. So when, like, and I guess I'll just refer to the document that was set forward with the investigation stuff that took place in the office, when it said that there was a particular instance that said that these findings ring hollow, meaning that there is nothing to base that decision off of, in that there was evidence of potential retaliatory remarks towards other individuals. We know that those policies and procedures weren't followed, otherwise that wouldn't have been put in there. So how do you ensure that the people that's being followed, that they're not getting accusations that ring hollow or potential retaliatory remarks said to somebody over something? I mean, I understand that there's policies and procedures put in place that when somebody comes in for a permit and it runs down that criteria, and that should be followed. But when we have documents that clearly wasn't followed because it rings hollow, how do we ensure to people that they're actually getting their best foot forward, that these policies are being followed, that's taking place, that they're not being treated differently?
I would say there's a couple of things that come in mind. One is the process is in place. Two is what I'd like to do is like I explained before, training, so that going forward. Three is that basically we have met the board's requirements in the situation you asked. Part of that was coaching.
Sure.
We've went through all that. In fact, I had requested myself to be part of that whole process. To learn from, and it was very good. We have since completed that, and as I indicated here in the slide, we're moving on. Can I go back and take this all back? No, but what I can do is monitor those things. If there's a problem within the field, or if you as board members are aware of something that's going on, the communication comes in. I would want to be aware of it as a department head. And also, we do what we're doing now is reviewing on a staffing level of communicating amongst ourselves a lot better than we have. So that I'm well aware of everything that's going, or trying to put it this way, of everything that's going on in the field, so I can monitor if there's situations that I probably need to keep track of a little bit better.
Sure. And I guess one other question too is, I know things kind of got taken down the deep road here. We had several complaints and all that, and then it wasn't until we got numerous complaints that it was looked into. I guess what's your plans as far as dealing with some of these issues internally before it gets to the point of having to have complaints from the citizens before action is given?
Well, if there's internal, I've always done it. If there is problems within the public with staff, I want to know about it. That's the only way as a department head that I can move forward with a problem myself. I have, from time to time, actually went out to take a look at things myself, as far as complaints coming in, whether the actions justified the result or the as the complaint and the, to remediate the complaint of what it's going to take. Sometimes I've disagreed with staff, where we've went a little different route, but we accomplished the same things. But a lot of times, like I said, we're guided by rules and regulations. Can that be taken on, it's a fine line that we're walking too. There's a lot of gray area in times when you're administering regulations that, there's times the time we get talking to attorneys they question some of our motives, some of our regulations, that we have to justify those types of things. So, I mean, there's a checks and balances, I think, there that we're putting in place that hopefully we remedy a lot of that.
Sure.
And this don't come back.
Sure. Now I know, like you talk about, like in your goals and stuff, promoting public health and the welfare and stuff of the residents. Like, do you feel that your office has been doing that well? Like, you've been open to hearing what public health has to say on issues and kind of talking to other expertise in the area when it comes to issues like that?
Well, the office is always open. I mean, Justin's got different ideas on how they want to proceed on any given different issue.
Yep.
Do we keep those, those different issues, those opinions? I like to hear about them. We all can learn as we move forward on different issues.
Mm-hmm.
Are we all going to agree on as we move forward? Everybody's got a different idea on how they want to come to an end result. What I hope to do and what we move forward is we compromise, and what we come out of here is what's best for Houston County as a whole. Is it going to make some people happy or some people a little bit upset about a direction we take? Yes, no doubt. But what we try to do is look at the big picture, use what we have as far as science and facts and different things as we move forward on decisions. That's what we're, as an office, trying to do.
Sure.
Are we, I guess what I'm saying, are we always at 100%? We make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes as we move forward. Can we correct those mistakes so we don't make them again? That's what we try to do, yes.
And I assume when you say compromise, you don't mean compromising people's health isn't
No.
part of the compromise. So,
No.
Another thing, you touched on this. I was just curious. You said that we've removed structures from people in the past. We've done that.
Yes.
I know when do we decide when a structure gets removed or not?
When it is completely out of compliance. We've had, and I can only think of two off the top of my head, and both of them had to do with setback requirements from property line roads.
But then, because I know we just got a deal, it was a couple weeks ago, a letter was sent out to an individual that they put up a structure, did something, but didn't have the permit for it, and that was part of it. So they have the opportunity to come into compliance, right?
Yes.
So I guess, there's been a structure over in my district that's been out of compliance for a very long time. I know we kind of went and looked at it, Bob and myself, and one time I think Tracy went with, and I don't remember who the other officer was the last time. I don't know, Brian, was it you? Yeah, it was Brian that went with. And we went to check out over in Yucatan, and I guess, that structure's been out of compliance. That one hasn't been looked at. I just wanted to make sure we're being consistent as far as.
That has been looked at, and that is an ongoing case.
Yep.
I know that the pretense of what that permit was given for and
Yep.
what sometimes what it's perceived at are two different things. And we're moving forward with it. We're keeping looking at it, and we've got it. It's on the radar screen. Put it
Yeah.
that way.
And I guess because, we're so quick to, and I know it's kind of a tricky one, but I know there's been several people over the last year that have gotten letters that you need to come into compliance or it needs to be tore down or whatever. And I guess I was just kind of wondering why that one's been left to just slide for so long. And we looked at it, and we all know that it's not the structure that was originally permitted.
Well, I mean, you were on the site too. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got a hard time, unless we actually got a court order that we can go in, or a hard time we need to build a case. That's just what I'm saying.
Right.
We need the cooperation, but a lot of times you don't get that cooperation between the landowner and the county. So I mean, and it's a line that, like I said, as we're moving forward, we're building, but we need to get our ducks in a row. I don't want to go into an enforcement action without all of our ducks in a row, and I don't want to put the county in a position to lose a case either.
Is that in a situation that has been appealed?
No.
Board of Adjustment has
No.
not.
And that would be something, and even, I can talk to Attorney Yant on that one too. I'd like to see that one continue to move forward, and the fact that we have several witnesses that saw people living in a dwelling that is not.
But see, that's where,
dwelling.
time we get there, a lot of times, there's no activity or nothing on, so I mean, it's, unless, I haven't got the staff to sit there all night either, because
Right.
that takes away from my daily, or the daily activity of that office too, so I mean, we're somewhat limited on what we can do.
Yep. And then, I know you mentioned, you handed us this sheet, I guess, just quickly, I guess, is this?
Which one are you talking
Oh,
about?
the one that you handed us earlier?
Oh, yes.
On the mines, are we, that's getting sent out so that we can kind of, if I understand the intent correctly, we can kind of compile who's conforming, non-conforming, who's in compliance with the is that kind of what that's for?
If you go through that, what we're asking for is, one, if you're going to move forward, the mine, there is a non-conforming mine, you have property that was within the description that was registered in 72. You are being notified because of that. Then we lay out the options. You can either say, yes, I want to continue, or no, I don't want nothing to do with it, take it off my registration, we're done. We are still going to go back if there is a old mine there to take a look at reclamation, just to see if it's is properly. There's a lot of these old ones out there that if you really, you could drive by them and not see them. I mean, would you go back in there and rip it up? No. There'll be natural reclamation. Those are the different things. What we're looking at is basically using the Soil Conservation Service and our office to look at these. And if there's going to be reclamation, what's the best way to reclamate that type of property?
So will we have a good list, after this, will we have data that'll show a good list of who the mines are,
What's active and what is not active.
So we'll have that list in 6 months when we get this back, we should have.
I'm going to say, you're looking at a longer process than that. As we move forward.
By township, you said.
Yes, we're going township by township. There is 130 of these. When you take a look at all the parcel splits and everything, and each one of these got to be contacted, each one of these got to sign off on it. There may be legal description problems. We're going to run into a number of issues that, as we're moving forward, that we're going to have to address. I'm not saying this, and this is something that is very high priority in the office right now, in that we've notified 4 different townships. We want to kind of see what kind of timetable this is going to take just to go through these 4. And then we're going to keep going as we go down the line.
Can you get me a list of those 130 mines when you get a chance?
They've all been, they're all in, I could give you the whole layout and the descriptions.
Look, just a list of.
Well, I've got them in,
Who they are,
what they
what
are,
they are.
township by township, and the legal description.
Yeah.
That's been made available a number of times to the public already.
Yeah, if you could email that to me or something, that'd be
I
great.
could certainly do that.
And last question, I guess, since you're here, you could probably, shoot, where is it? Yeah. How do I interpret this? Because I've had several people ask me this question, and I guess I'm not clear on this, but in the letter that you guys sent out, it said the 1998 zoning ordinance states any operating mine legally commenced prior to enactment, okay? So how does that work then? If it said that in that statute, reclamation plan required, and it said that they shall submit reclamation plan to the planning agency for review and approval within 5 years. So they would have to have that done by 2003. If they don't have that done, then are they considered not compliant with the
You can't
ordinance?
take that type of nonconformity and legal status just away by that. I mean, they still have a certain amount of legal usage of that property for what it was registered.
If I may say something.
Please do.
What I'm concerned about, and I talked this with Mr. Frank, was that these people have, say you had that mines or one of these mines here, they have something. And that if you're going to extinguish that something or that value or property right that they have, I would be, and I told him I'd be very concerned about notice. Make sure that they understand. And I don't have the letter in front of me, but we have to be very careful, because if you're a property owner and you call up Mr. Frank, he can't be given legal advice. I'm not going to give them legal advice. They need to be notified that they have this right, but they may not know.
Right.
They need to know, okay, here is, I don't know exactly what was in the letter, but and I told him if they call his office, you need to get legal counsel. Can't be us.
Right.
And that you need to find out what your rights are. And that if we get some inaction by these people who do not contact us, that inaction in a civil action can be an action, in that you can default, lose a right by not going forward and asserting you have that right. And so I instructed Mr. Frank is that when you send out these letters, if we get people that don't respond, and this would be why this may drag out a bit, is that we need to send them another letter out and make sure, hey, we sent you this letter out. Do you understand, again, giving them another notice? And I also indicated as well is that when we send these letters out, if we send out some form, some sort of form or whatever to these people, that we need to send them a self-addressed stamped envelope, making it as easy as possible so that you understand you have the ability to contact us, and so there is no reason that if somebody later could claim that this right was extinguished, that we didn't give them the opportunity to respond. It's very important when you're talking about the due process issue here, that they have the ability to make their claim to this. And then later, yes, you could probably extinguish these rights, but we want to make sure that everybody gets an understanding and an opportunity to be heard on this.
When you say extinguish these rights, does that somehow take it off the property description?
Well,
Is there
and at some point here, I guess that's why this is, it's more complicated perhaps in the discussion we have time for here today.
Okay.
But if you would, to answer the question, at some point, you would be extinguishing these rights and we would go forward with that. Is that if somebody, and for lack just to, and I shouldn't do this, but to speak aloud on this, to theorize, you would do something that you ask them to have somebody have some sort of form that they are, you know, they have this mine on their property, a portion of, they had this property right, and they're relinquishing it, something to that effect. And if we got to the point where, just thinking aloud again, where someone would not be returning our request to give us some advice what they want to do with their right, I don't know if we'd go to the point where we'd have law enforcement serve them, but we would certainly be making sure that we had the proper legal service upon them. And that's why the legal descriptions are important, because we need to find out who owns these properties and make sure that there are claims. I know in North Dakota where they had the oil boom out there, is that nobody cared when somebody died years ago out there and had some property. And it never was probated. Nobody cared who wanted the land, nobody paid the taxes. But all of a sudden there's something underneath there, a mineral right, and then it became very important who owned what. And did you give up that right or did you not give up that right? So we need to be very careful when we look at this here. I understand what the goal is, to bring everything so we know what we have, but we have to do it right. How long do you wait before they get that second notice? How long are you going to sit? And I guess that is something, I guess, to answer that question this way, is that this is something that's an evolving process. And I told Mr. Frank, when we get to this point through this process, you know, he's going to, that's what I'm here to advise his office with that. And so if we get to that point where he has a bunch of people that are not returning and stuff, then come to see me and we'll figure out step 2. Another one of these things we're running into in this county, that we're not reinventing the wheel, we're sort of creating the wheel. And so just doing the best we can.
there any more questions?
I guess I only have one question, and I got some praise I want to give you two in a second about something that I was very proud of you guys for doing. But real quick, one last question. In one sentence, how do you plan to restore the public trust in your office?
Well, I think as we move forward, what I'd like to say is we treat everybody that comes through that door the same. I think, and this is my opinion, is that, you know, if you look around at what we have to offer the public on solid waste service, recycling services, the water planning, the great strides that we have, and the history that we have, and if you look around and anybody that comes into this county takes a look at what we have, I mean, it speaks volumes for itself.
Sure.
I want to move forward. Like I said, the history that we've had within the last couple of years, let it be that. Let's move forward. Let's communicate. Like I said, we have a lot of responsibility to taxpayers out there, and I want to make sure that that is met.
Sure.
And that, like I said, we take our responsibility serious, and that, you know, if the public does have a perception out there, or they do have a concern, I'm in the phone book. My door is always open, that they can come in. I've had several of them do that through the courses of the years. If there is a problem with anything going on, I want to know about it so that we can correct it.
So let me help you out real quick. 3 words that I'd like to see. That'll help you instill public trust in your office. Transparency, communication, and accountability. Fair enough? Now, real quick, I mentioned this, and I want to give credit where credit is due. I know there's been some issues in the Environmental Services Office as far as kind of the zoning side. There's been some contentious issues. Obviously, everybody's going to strive to move forward and do better. But I wanted to tell you, I really think you guys do a superb job when it comes to the solid waste, recycling, all that kind of stuff. A lot of people don't know this, or maybe some people do, but I just want to make it public too, that I guess I was really impressed when several weeks you go out to the dump site. And Julie was out there, and my mom said that you were out there one other time, and Rick's been out there helping out when you guys are shorthanded and doing things in the weekend and helping out in the dump
We're the
sites.
backups to the backups.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys doing that, and I guess from a citizen's aspect, maybe there's not a lot of citizens that know who you are in certain locations. Predominantly, you're more well-known in the areas that you grew up in. So maybe a lot of people don't know who you are when they come up, but it is nice to see the people from the departments helping out on that Saturday or whatever it is, doing that, getting their hands dirty, and you've done that. And I appreciate that, and I think that really reflected good on your department, that I know you don't need to be out there all the time in your backup, but when you were, I had a lot of people comment that they said, oh, that was really neat to see them out there. So anyways, I appreciate all your efforts, and
Thank you.
And you've done really good things as far as that side of things go.
And like I said, are we satisfied? There's still a long ways to go. There will always be issues that we're going to have to adapt to and change, and that's what we need to do, is to move forward with those things as they come in.
And I think too, we'll move forward, everybody move forward too, as far as the issues that have been at hand, to make sure they're not replicated, duplicated, or anything like that. And
I'll say an amen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Further questions? Is there any further business to come before this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion is made to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Oh.
I just have one question. Well, Mr. Frank is here and Mr. Young is here. I just want to know, we're going to know that the zoning ordinance is being enforced.
Say that again, Robin.
I just want to know how we're going to know how the zoning ordinance is being enforced. I don't see that as creating a legal or, that's all. Just want to know how we're going to know that it's being enforced.
Well, I guess in that regard, if you're looking at something, you know, what I handle basically is public record. and that you're more than entitled to come in and request, to take a look at them. If you want copies of them, to make sure that they're all addressed, you can do that.
All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. We are adjourned.